ahead based on what we know of the ground conditions. So in the first year, we've really taken a step to try to make sure that we're figuring this system out so that we can approach all challenges that come up during construction. That's about all I got. We're really excited to be here, and when we're done, we'll entertain any questions you might have. Thank you.
When you talk about Amtrak, if you take the train from Boston to Washington, D.C., it is probably the Northeast Corridor. It's the part of the Amtrak passenger system that actually generates income for the rest of the country so that the other rail lines can operate. So none of this works without what happens in the city of New York and the hub and everything else within Penn Station. So we have two gentlemen here today to talk about the Gateway. It's the $18 billion plus project. There's so much going on that's really innovative. And for the first time in 100 and some years, we're tunneling underneath the Hudson River to build a train tunnel. And so I'm going to call on Robert Hickman, who is the Chief Administrative Officer, and also Jim Starace, and you guys can go in whatever order, or if you want to get up here together, feel free. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. So first off, thank you, Congresswoman, for inviting me and the Gateway Development Commission to speak on our project. I'm just going to speak very briefly and have the expert Jim Starace speak more to the details of the project. But as Carl mentioned, it's a $16 billion project. This is something that's been in concept and talked about since the 1990s. But due to the bipartisan infrastructure law, we unlocked over $16 billion to actually get this thing underway. And we're doing it. It is an extraordinarily complex project that goes through 2 states and involves partnerships between our agency, the Gateway Development Commission, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Amtrak, New Jersey Transit, and over $7 billion, over $10 billion in funding from US DOT. It's an extraordinary partnership that illustrates that we actually can do stuff like this in this country, or I wouldn't say unlimited, but many contracting and subcontracting opportunities. So if there are questions about that, we're happy to speak to it at the end of it. But I'll let Jim, our Chief of Program Delivery with decades of experience on infrastructure projects, especially in the New York, New Jersey area, speak to the specifics of the project. But thank you for having us.
Thanks, Rob, and thank you, Congresswoman, for the invitation. It's really an honor to be here. Rob gave an overview, and I'm sure all of you have heard of the Hudson Tunnel project. If there is a greater urgency to do an infrastructure project, this is way up there. The Hudson Tunnel project is an urgent investment in the nation's passenger rail infrastructure that will make 2 major improvements to service reliability. First of all, it's 9 miles of new passenger rail track between New York and New Jersey, and 5 miles of tunnel boring under the Hudson River, which includes probably similar to what was described with the Baltimore Tunnel, state-of-the-art tunnel boring machines, challenging soil conditions with rock and in the Palisades, which is a rock mountain on the west side of the Hudson, and soft soil under the Hudson. And it's also going to rehabilitate the 115-year-old North River Tunnel. That's the existing tunnel that's used by New Jersey Transit and Amtrak. And it's been the source of delays for thousands of passengers. By the way, I don't have slides up here, so you'll have to listen to me talk through it. But there's an urgent need for this project. The Northeast Corridor is the most heavily used passenger rail line in the United States. 10-mile stretch between Newark, New Jersey and New York Penn Station is the busiest, most congested section of corridor. Amtrak and New Jersey Transit service through this critical section of the Northeast Corridor relies on a 115-year-old North River Tunnel. And so after decades of use, the aging tunnel has become a leading cause of delays. So the Hudson Tunnel will fix that problem by building a new tunnel, rehabilitating the existing tunnel, resulting in 4 modern tracks, where there's currently only 2. So it was looked at to possibly rehabilitate the existing tunnel without building a new tunnel. And it just was not practical. The delays and the impact just would have been overwhelming. So it was decided that new tunnels needed to be built. But it will add great redundancy to this critical Northeast Corridor area. So what's happening? There's 10 projects in the Hudson Tunnel project. 5 of the 10 construction packages are in progress. We'll complete the first construction package this fall, and the tunnel boring is on track to start next year. And then 2 more construction contracts will be awarded in the coming months. That's track alignment in New Jersey between Secaucus and where the portal's going to be, and the Hudson River Tunnel, which will be awarded by the end of the year. The program, as you can imagine, has tremendous benefits. 95,000 jobs will be created, and 19.6 billion in total economic output will be generated by the construction. So some of the projects I'll describe briefly. The first one that will be completed is called Tunnelly Avenue Bridge. This is in New Jersey. This is where the portal will begin. This is where the tunnel work will begin. And this tunneling will go through the Palisades. And the Palisades, again, as I said earlier, is a rock mountain. The TBMs are in fabrication right now, and they'll be delivered at the early next year, and tunneling will start. This is the first mile of the twin tunnels that will eventually go through through into New York. So that's the first mile, and the construction of the portal is ongoing right now, including blasting and a lot of rock removal. There is also ongoing the Palisades Tunnel project, which again is this beginning of the tunnel. What we did in Tunnelly Avenue is build a bridge to allow the tunnel, the tracks to come through to the beginning of the tunnel. The Palisades Tunnel has begun, and they are getting ready again, as I said, to start the tunneling work. To be awarded later this year will be the Hudson River Tunnel. This is a challenge. The soil is soft. As opposed to rock tunneling, this is through very soft textured soil. So in advance of the tunnel, we're doing, as was described earlier, we're doing soil stabilization. And what that is drilling holes in this soft ground and actually mixing in a grout, which will give you a light, sort of a light strength solid surface to allow a more stable tunnel boring operation under the Hudson. So that's ongoing now, and the tunnel award will be later this year. In Manhattan, there's an awarded contract, and that will be to build a shaft to allow the tunnel boring machine to go in and out, and to clear away, again, another challenging soil area. The west side of Manhattan has been extended and widened over the last 150 years with landfill. So there's lots of stuff in the ground that will be a challenge. Obstructions, varying density of soil. So this project will do the tunneling from the west side of Manhattan through the bulkhead, and a relatively small section, but to clear the way in a challenging landfill area, and that contract is also ongoing. When the Hudson Yards development was done, which was it was a big development on the west side of Manhattan, the tunnel space was built underneath that development. That is being finished now, which will meet up with the tunnel construction going under the Hudson. And as I said, the tunnel boring machines are ongoing. They're on their way. And innovation, just to sort of summarize, is probably every kind of state-of-the-art tunneling that's going to go on here. There's also innovation in how we partner ourselves. Well, again, as Rob said, we're working with local partners, and we have a delivery partner that works with us to help deliver the program. We've learned from severe weather events to assure that we're going to have a resilient structure, and again, the redundancy of having the 2 extra tunnels when the North River tunnels are rehabilitated will give us tremendous ability and greater reliance for this busy corridor. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Jim.
Robin, Jim, thank you again. Please understand, there will probably be more tunnel boring machines in this country over the next 5 to 10 years than have ever been. Right now they're manufactured primarily in Europe and Asia and everything else, but this is a technology that's coming to America, and we need to keep it here once we have it. I'm going to move on to Clark and Priscilla, if you'll come up.
Great. I think you can see the slides yet. We go back on the slides a little bit where it says CODA. Well, in the meantime, thank you, Carl, for inviting Clark Construction as well as Congresswoman. We are very thankful for you all inviting Clark and allowing us to be a part of this important conversation. You might have already seen a preview to my slides, so just imagine that for right now. Great, thank you so much. All right, so we keep hearing this word about innovation. So for the next few minutes, I'll talk specifically about Clark Construction's approach to innovation. We're going to start off with a little bit of a history lesson here. So Clark Construction was originally founded as George Hyman Construction in 1906. And then 90 years later, it merged with another company and became the company that you now know today as Clark Construction. But then in 2019, something happened. CODA LLC was formed. And what happened between 1996 and 2019 that led to the creation of CODA? So that's what we're going to dive into a little bit. We saw 4 key trends. The first one is advancements in technology. Especially during this time, there's a lot of emerging technology. We have different types of laser scanners, drones, 360 photography, even our phones nowadays have LiDAR technology. So there's a lot of technology that came out during this time period. We also have the silo value chain, which is the second trend that we're talking about. And so on a typical construction project, there's over 30 subcontractors and key stakeholders, and they're all creating and curating data in silos. You'll have one subcontractor that does test pitting, another subcontractor that does GPR, and then you have a civil engineer who's designing the utilities, and it's so much overwhelming data that's curated throughout the life cycle of a project, which leads to data proliferation. What do you do with all of this data, especially when there's construction projects that take 4, 5, 6 years? And the last trend that we noticed during this time period is that there's a workforce shortage. Folks are starting to retire. And how do you mitigate loss of knowledge when a person rotates out of the project? So it's these 4 key trends that led to the creation of CODA LLC. CODA LLC is a subsidiary of Clark Construction. It's their innovation company that focuses on leveraging construction data and technology to mitigate and solve for common infrastructure challenges. So fast forward to the present time, specifically 2024. If you look at some metrics coming from the Damage Information Reporting Tool, or the DIRT report, if you will, there's a new trend that's emerging. Across the United States and Canada, there was almost 200,000 reported damages to existing infrastructure. What do I mean by damages? Typically utility strikes, telecom lines, electrical, etc. To put things in perspective, that's about 22 damages every hour. And the top source of these damages, about 74%, is excavation and construction related activities. So that's definitely a problem that's plaguing the AEC industry. So what is CODA doing about it? We work with several clients, Amtrak, BWI, we also work with healthcare facilities, universities, as well as stadiums. And we work to tackle this problem. And we do so by obtaining and curating all of their underground data and all of these different sources of information and triangulating it and creating a 3D visualization of their site. As you see here in this video, or I guess you won't see it in this video. I don't think the video is playing. Oh, okay. Well, we're going to use our imagination. And what we're specifically doing at the BNP Tunnel project, specifically Package B, which is construction of the West Baltimore MARC station, we modeled all of their underground utilities. We modeled the design as well as the supportive excavation, and that allowed subcontractors, the design team, the Clark team, to actually understand where we need to do additional site investigation and where are areas that we need to redesign. That way we're not hitting utilities. And so what does the future state look like? We're starting to see another trend that there's huge investments and initiatives focused on building repositioning. So especially the Office to Anything initiative that rolled out earlier this year, it's important now more than ever to document the existing conditions of your site, of your building. That way you could set up your construction team up for success. We work with different key stakeholders, owners, architects, engineers, and it's been proven to be very helpful. Specifically on the JHU Library project in Baltimore, the architect used our existing conditions 3D model to use the basis of design. So they saved time, money, and resources, not having to go through as-built drawings from the 1960s to figure out at the end of the day that a column is actually not where it's supposed to be, or there was renovations that went undocumented. So by creating a live 3D model, they were able to skip all of that nuanced time and trying to figure out what's on their site. They actually had a starting point and were able to design the building a lot faster. And with this, I'll conclude. At the end of the day, CODA and Clark, we understand that there's a better way to design, construct, and operate facilities, and their answer lives at the intersection of technology and data. If we are to take away anything from what I mentioned, it's important to document the existing conditions in a 3D way so you're able to make more informed decisions and set your construction projects up for success. Thank you.
You know, as I listen to both Robert and also Jim, you have absolutely no idea what the tunnel looks like if you could actually see it visually as you move through it. These tunneling projects and everything else are under repair constantly. And everything that's underground is really a nightmare as well in terms of what it is that we have to do. We patch, we've added, we've done this and we've done that. And we're just looking for now a clear way to kind of move forward. So I'm going to ask, I'm going to save you for last, Ricardo, and I'm going to ask Joe to come up, Smith, okay?
Thank you, Carl and Congresswoman, for having us. So Skanska is a contractor, so we're going to give you a contractor's perspective on innovation. So why do we innovate? It's for our customers. Can we improve the quality? Can we improve the schedule? Can we make the project safer? Usually those three things also drive a lower price. When we're looking at innovation, what is the cost benefit? Do the cost of investing in the technology provide a benefit to our customer? Is it feasible to implement And is it scalable across all our projects? But probably the biggest investment as contractors that we need to make are in our people. And how do people innovate? One, you take something that's already in existence someplace else and you adopt it to what you're doing. Two, there's something close, but it's not quite there. You adapt it to make it work for the project you're on. And the third one, which is also probably the most expensive one, if it's not in existence, you invent something. So some real life examples of a project that is just wrapping up in Baltimore. There's also a very focus on tunnels tonight in this presentation. The Howard Street Tunnel is CSX's tunnel in downtown Baltimore. Was completed 130 years ago in 1895, comprised totally of brick. It's one of the main sources of freight trains from the Port of Baltimore, the lifeline of, one of the lifelines of Maryland's economy. To make the port more efficient, to make rail more efficient, the trend has been to double stack freight containers on rail cars. The problem is Baltimore's tunnel is only 19 feet tall, and you can't fit a double stacked rail car through it. So CSX hired the Skanska joint venture to lower the invert of the tunnel. Anybody that knows about engineering and brick is all compressed against each other, you cut the bottom out, you might have some problems. So how did we innovate? Step one was, in that confined space, we don't get the luxury of using a TBM machine to dig the dirt and advance ahead. We had to base it off of existing rail. So the picture you see there is a custom rail car that has an overhead gantry. Sort of the same process of a TBM, materials need to move forward to place to support the tunnel. So what that did was it pulled 12-ton pieces of precast through that and set it. The problem was, back to the innovation, we were on a tight schedule with CSX. We shut the tunnel down on February 1st of this year, and CSX had to do a 300-mile diversion while paying their competitor Norfolk Southern to use their tracks. So there was all the motivation in the world to get it back open and to make the port more efficient. So, software, a production tracking software. We tracked the cycle of what it took. First step, demo and excavation. Grade, set the concrete slab. Grout underneath the slab to lock it into the bottom. Pour concrete to lock it into the side of the existing tunnel. And that's a 24-hour window, and you can see that it took, when we first started, 18 hours to do one cycle of 3 pieces. The 2 weak links in that were the demo and excavation and the concrete placement. How do we shrink those times or move those off the critical path to increase production? So 1, the excavation. The people got together and said, we were using one machine, but we were switching back and forth between an excavator bucket and a hydraulic hammer to beat out the brick, because we only had 19 feet diameter tunnel. How do we make it more efficient? We actually added a second operator, second machine, figured out how to cycle those 2 machines out, shaved approximately 3 to 4 hours of demolition off the cycle. The other one was, how do we take concrete off the cycle time? This is where the adopt and adapt. As you can see in that picture, there's post-shoring jacks are used everywhere in the construction industry. We figured out how to support the sides of the tunnel, lock the precast into the brick, advance the train ahead, and pour ready-mix concrete behind the machine so that concrete came off the critical path altogether and reduced that time from 3.5 hours down to 45 minutes. Everybody got to study this slide for a little while. So, as David said earlier, the other way to innovate as an owner is contract methods. Traditional design, bid, build was the way this industry, the heavy civil industry, went centuries, at least decades. And then we've advanced to design build, and then construction manager at risk and progressive design build. Howard Street was a progressive design build. We had probably 38 change conditions, but not one single change order went to CSX because we priced in allowances and alternatives, and we mitigated the risk for the owner. The project that's in the Congresswoman's backyard that was just awarded, Long Bridge, progressive design build. While the guaranteed maximum price was just agreed to 4 months ago, we've been working for the last year, actually doing early works, minimizing risk, and helping VPRA and the city move ahead faster to be done with the project by 2030. Thank you.
Roads, bridges, and tunnels. Doesn't turn everybody on, but I like that stuff. Okay. I want to introduce a gentleman now, Ricardo Vegas. And Ricardo, unlike all of the other folks up here who are backed by billions of dollars in projects and also in revenue and in cash or whatever, is a business person who represents innovation in a real way. Some of the things that Joseph just talked about in terms of what takes place in the tunnel, I consider all of that to be confined space in terms of how you have to operate. And this is a gentleman who'll talk with you about how they take their particular innovation in concrete plants, mobile concrete plants, and make it sexy and make it work. Ricardo.
Concrete is the predominant material used in infrastructure. And tunnels is more complicated, because a confined space. And we're going to talk a little bit about the innovations our company have brought to infrastructure projects. In 2019, we started working with Brand. We've been working on the cement and concrete industry since 1983. They already been named as one of the 1,000 companies growth in Europe by the Financial Times. And they achieved that growth through innovation. That's the way they are moving forward. And what drives our innovation is based on green economy. And we always try to find a solution for the contractors to be profitable. So it's got to be a green economy based on profitability and sustainability. So we have developed equipment who are saving energy, they have high mobility, especially that reduce the CO2 emissions in the projects. For example, this is the standard 100 cubic yard batch plant will consume 350 kilowatts. Our standard batch plant to produce exactly the same amount of output of concrete will require only 110 kilowatts. That's 1/3 of a standard batch plant. Since Bauma Show this year, we launched the newest one that is a full electric batch plant that consumes only 45 kilowatts. That's a huge amount of savings on energy and reduction of CO2. But also we're able to run that machine with battery backpacks, so that you will not require diesel engines to have emissions during the progress of the making the concrete. Those energy savings also are coming from incentives that the government give called Industry 4.0 in Europe. They will give incentive to the contractors that reduce the amount of energy they use during the production of the projects. And those incentives are driven the innovations that we are seeing today. The other aspect is our batch line is highly, they move very, very fast, and you set it up in a really small space. That means that you don't have to have the mixer trucks running in and out for long distance. Instead, you put the batch line right in place, and you're able to save 1.5 million pounds of CO2 per year during the execution of the projects if you reduce the distance. Again, CO2 reduction, mobility. 2 years ago, we won an award for high-speed rail innovation award. That is an agitator that is floating on the gantry and is going inside of the tunnel and producing and placing the concrete without touching the rails. So you can actually place the tracks and pour the concrete on top without touching the tracks. That save 4 months of the completion of the project. That's something that is unique, because this is where the money, you spend a lot of money daily if you don't do this. Also in London Underground, we supply a solution for repairing an old tunnel with quick setting concrete. That's a concrete that you can run back again in 3 hours and a half. And the same solution that was provided to the London tube, we provide to the Baltimore tunnel here in the US and Amtrak. So there was a transfer of technology from Europe into the US. And I'm gonna move ahead on this one. But this is a transfer of technology from the US into the rest of the world. I have received more than 10 delegations from different countries to see the RCC, which we call green concrete, that use 40% less cement, 40% less water, have the longevity of the concrete, and almost the same cost of asphalt. And this is the future. And US is leading now on this kind of solution with concrete, and we supply batches are able to produce this special concrete. Also, we are three-fourths of our batch plants are going to recycling sites. That gives the opportunity to use the material back from construction debris back into use with the recycling. Tunnel excavation will have some material that might contain heavy metals, and that will contaminate the streams if they arrive there. So we, with our mixing technology, we're able to take that material, bonding with cement and other bindings, and dispose the material so they will not contaminate the Hudson River or the Potomac River, and you can dispose in a safe way. And also, you're able to produce blocks, concrete blocks, that can be used for retaining walls, and it can be used for marine protection. That is the next investment that infrastructure needs to do, because it's coming to us. This is the Milan airport is a project where 100% of the recycled material coming out of the airport was crushed, put it back again. We only imported 10% of the material into the job site. Thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
I appreciate everyone's patience and participation. We're going to take about 10 minutes for Q&A, but I just want to share a couple things with you. Over the next 8 to 10 years, which is the lifeline of most of these projects, how many years do you have left in the gateway?
10 to 15.
10 to 15. Okay, Frederick Douglass.
10.
10. And as you look across the country, all of these projects will be taking years to complete. And it's not just about brick and mortar. There are opportunities in professional services and insurances and supply in innovation, in technology. And so all of these projects can be feeders for where we're going to be as an economy for years down the road. So enough of me. I think we've got time for about 5 questions. So I need folks to line up. If they have a question, they can line up right there in front of the microphone. And any questions that don't get addressed, we will address them. And also, if the participants of the panel are willing and want to share their presentations or whatever, I'll inquire and I'll make that happen. Okay? If you could start with your name, your organization, and your question.
Yes, good evening. My name is Egosa Igbinoba, Dr. E. I am a national board member as well as the chair for the Education Committee of the National Association of Black Women in Construction. We are NABWIC. I wanted to ask how many of you have heard of NABWIC. I want you to raise your hand. Well, if you have not, you have heard now, and you will be hearing from us because we are very interested in subcontracting opportunities for disadvantaged business enterprises. And I just wanted to hear about maybe some of your efforts in that realm.
Anyone who's on the stage who would like to take that, that's fine. All right.
Is this on?
You can do it sitting down.
Okay. So yes, great question. We are a recipient of over $6 billion in Federal Transit Administration funds, and with that come DBE requirements. We're proud on our project that overall for our agency, we have a 20% DBE goal on our project. That is the highest of any of our sister agencies in the region. And then, as Jim mentioned earlier, in terms of our construction packages, it is broken up. Our mega $16 billion project is broken into 10 construction packages, and each of those packages has a DBE goal attached to it. So long story short is we're very aggressive. There's a statutory mandate, and we've worked with FTA over many years to develop the DBE protocol for our project. We're very proud of it, and we are always interested in ensuring that contractors who are DBEs have opportunities on the project. I don't know, Jim, if you wanted to add anything there.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Audrey Medley. I'm a legislative representative at the Ironworkers. First, I want to begin by thanking Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton for always doing a great job on T&I. Really appreciate that. My question actually is, since we're talking about innovation, I think innovation goes hand in hand with workforce development. And so I'm really interested to see what your companies are doing, investing in registered apprenticeship programs and making sure that the communities that you are having projects in currently, but also future projects have workers in them. If we have all this innovation that's coming, and we talked about a workforce shortage to avoid that in the future, although I was telling my partner next to me that I don't really believe in a workforce shortage because there are plenty of construction workers that want to work. But how are we setting up the next group of individuals to come up so that we do not have one in the future? With innovation comes workforce development.
Joe and David, can you guys want to?
Sure, I guess I'll take that first. So right now we're in our pre-construction process, right, where we've started outreach events for workforce development, mostly within the community of Baltimore, right, trying to get people interested in the trades, working with the unions as well as our people to try to get people involved and get ready for construction on our end that's likely going to start in the spring. We're also trying at the same time to make sure that we're planning for the future. So while we've started this process maybe back a year ago to identify the people who are going to help get us started, we need to define the people who are going to help us ramp up as we go and we start to build, on our end. The portion of our project is probably about $2 billion total of the $6 billion, and we need to ramp up somewhere near 500, 600 craft people. So we are right now in the process of getting ready for that first phase and planning and making sure that we have the right, we're out to the right groups, we're out to the right people to make sure that we have our workforce covered.
I will jump in on that as well. Specifically, we've worked with the carpenters in DC to almost start a pre-apprentice program and supporting them through that endeavor. As a union contractor, we lean heavily on the unions for our workforce development, but are also supporting and partners with them in developing those programs to put local residents to work through those programs.
Yeah, I would add just one more thing on that, is that the unions in Baltimore and in the DMV area have been very receptive to helping us develop the training programs, right, that go hand in hand with workforce development. So a shout out to that. It's been a great pleasure to work with them and develop what is going to become the training platform for all the workers we're going to bring on the job.
All right, thank you all. So my name is Tiffany Cherry. I'm also part of Network, you guys are aware of it now. But I'm also a licensed general contractor in North Carolina. So you all are talking about billion-dollar projects, mainly in the Northeast. How do you foresee us as a national organization, and our membership is across the country, getting involved with opportunities that you all have?
I want you guys to take it, but I think that Skanska, Kiewit, and almost all of the firms that are contracted and will be contracted on the Gateway are national and international firms. So you will find, I won't want to answer the question for you, but you guys can kind of respond as you like. Robert, you want to share with them the breadth of firms that are pre-qualified, or Jim, that are pre-qualified on the Gateway?
All of these, first of all, I mean, there's not an unlimited amount of contractors that can build these mega projects. On the Gateway, the shortlisted firms that have been proposed. We've awarded some of the contracts to one of a shortlisted group, maybe 3 or 4. These are big companies. We have a few design builds. We have design bid builds. These are international companies, well respected and large enough. And sometimes they're teaming, and many times they're teaming to assure they have the right talent to do these jobs. Tunneling is a unique specialty. And so we, again, in the Gateway program, the Hudson Tunnel program, we look for maybe 3 or 4 shortlisted firms, pre-qualified, and then ultimately we'll award it to one of those companies or teams.
Excuse me, but I do want to share that in North Carolina, there are bridge projects in the Outer Banks, and there are a whole bunch of projects in the Carolinas that mirror the types of projects we have here. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I want to say thank you to the Congresswoman for having this session, and thank you all for being here. My name is Nicole Giammi, and I work with the National Institute for Minority and Economic Development, and in my role, I specifically work on the transportation and construction side of the house. And while I applaud some of the responses that you all have given, really want to hear kind of succinct, clearly, what are your processes in terms of different initiatives that you have to bring minority and women contractors into these opportunities? Then I hear you say pre-qualification. So then what does that mean? And what organizations, because there are a lot of us out there, are you working with to ensure that the breadth of these opportunities that you have really are being accessible for the numerous minority firms that are out there? I know that's a lot, but
No, thank you. Thank you so much for your question, and I think that'll be our last question for right now. But why don't we just take it across the panel before we conclude? So Rob, how would you respond?
Yeah, I'll take the first part of your question. So Jim and I have talked about the 10 construction packages, 5 already awarded. Before each of those 5 construction packages were awarded, and also we've had other contracts, non-construction related packages that we've awarded before any of these major awards, we do outreach events for small businesses and minority contractors in the New York and New Jersey metropolitan area, and we reach out to organizations like the NAACP in New Jersey, the New Jersey African American Chamber of Commerce, and similar organizations in New York to broadcast and advertise these events so that small and minority contractors can learn more about our project but also get to meet prime contractors that are part of the short list that Jim mentioned earlier. So in addition to that, we advertise in publications that primarily cater to small and minority businesses. So we really are very aggressive. As I mentioned earlier, we have a very aggressive goal, but that aggressive goal is paired with aggressive outreach to the community and small businesses like some of the ones that I'm sure are here, so they can learn about our project and learn about opportunities on our project.
Ricardo, specifically with you, I know you're looking for minority partners.
Yes, correct. So I don't know if you minority companies are aware that one of the biggest contractors right now in the US is a minority company. It's from Miami. And they have taken the opportunities that the government is offering you to engage in getting in these projects. I strongly recommend to get engaged in concrete. Concrete is simple, it's not that complicated. Romans were doing it with a shovel and the buildings are there. It's a trade that I will definitely encourage minority companies to get engaged with. And if after the meeting you want to get together and get my business cards, and we can try to lead you to the use of new technology to producing concrete, not only on tunnels, but just regular concrete on the streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo. Priscilla?
Yeah. So speaking for Clark Construction, typically when we win a new job, we do a lot of subcontractor outreach. We're always looking for small business, minority, diversity subcontractors, and we invite everyone to attend these events that we share to get to know you all, to get you into our process. If you all haven't heard of Building Connected, I definitely recommend it. That's where we do a lot of our solicitation and reaching out to subcontractors to bid on our projects. So that's one resource you could definitely leverage if you haven't before, is just making sure you're set up on Building Connected.
Thank you, Priscilla. Clark has representation here, and also later on when we get together, you know, a lot of these questions can be answered a little bit more forward. David?
So I'll echo what everyone said about outreach and advertisement, and we use Building Connected too. So I mean, I think a lot of the major contractors are using Building Connected. The one thing I want to add, you know, in addition to that is, you know, what we try to do is we try to do our research with who's in the area and what their capabilities are, and then try to develop packages that make sense that those contractors would want to build, you know, so that we can get the right contractors with the right skill set doing the right scopes of work. If you blindly go in there and throw packages out that have a mixed mash of scope, right, it might not be good for the specialty contractor and minority contractor that's out there, right? And so I challenge our staff to try to put the right packages together to make sure that we're meeting the goals in the best way and most efficient way possible for the program.
Thank you. Sure.
And a lot of what has already been said, I don't want to repeat, but the other way that we need your help is to talk to the governing agencies that control, especially sitting in the Washington, Maryland, Virginia area. As soon as you cross the Potomac River or cross over the outside of the district, it becomes, where is an ME registered? Do we want to funnel, as the owner's rep, allow who can actually work? Because we work with good MBE firms in all three places, but sometimes they can't cross over if the registration is not right, and I don't think that's necessarily the best idea either. Especially in the Mid-Atlantic region, crossing over the Potomac River should not be a barrier.
All right, Joe, I'll help you out there, okay? All right. So listen, I appreciate everyone joining with us. The Congresswoman, always, always, always such a pleasure, and thank you. If you give our panelists a round of applause for that. There are going to be folks who are going to be with us later on this afternoon. We will be hosting a reception. Some people have already received invitations. Those others, especially the National Association of Women and Preconstruction and the other folks or whatever, just take a minute if you can. I'm here, I'm available. We'll continue to talk. But really, I appreciate the attention that you've given it. And like I said, if you have any questions, you could leave it with the young folks in the back, and we'll make arrangements to make sure they answer. I thank you very much. Congresswoman, you're welcome to close us out if you like. Okay? You're fine? All right. Thank you so much, and on to the next session. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.